Marcos for LA This Week.
Getting to school safely comes with responsibility, both for parents and children. Rasha Goel has more on how young kids are showing their commitment to pedestrian safety.
Pledge as a good pedestrian.
I pledge as a good pedestrian
to always look left. And then continue crossing the street.
They have it down. Students from 6 elementary schools took the Walk Wise LA Pedestrian Safety Pledge, committing themselves to practicing safety rules when it comes to crossing the street.
I think it's important because you always need to be careful and to not get run over.
It's all part of a program called Vision Zero, the city's plan to eliminate traffic fatalities through engineering, planning, and education. While the city is doing their part with new lights and stop signs, officials say
ultimately, it also depends upon responsible pedestrians and responsible cyclists. And they've got to be looking out for drivers who aren't looking out.
And that's why they say it's important to start educating them earlier.
We have visited 54 schools this year. We've had 8,400 kids take the pledge with us.
Officials say in the city of Los Angeles, 19% of pedestrian accidents and 18% of fatalities or severely injured pedestrians are school children between the ages of 5 to 17. These numbers could be reduced if people pay just a little bit more attention when crossing the street. And the pledge isn't just for these young kids, it's a reminder for adults as well.
By taking this pledge today, we're asking you also to ask your parents to drive wise so that you can teach them to use the streets safely.
The goal is to visit a total of 140 schools. In downtown Los Angeles, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Additionally, officials want to remind people not to be on their phones or have headsets on, but be attentive when crossing the street. The hub of LA's fashion industry is undergoing a style makeover. New sidewalks, lighting, and more for beautification as well. Gil Reyes has more from downtown's fashion district. Gil.
And yes, Yana, some of these street improvements have already started. You could see this curb extension on Los Angeles and 8th Street with plants that are only going to look better over time. And these improvements are expected to take place over several blocks on Los Angeles Street. Let's start with the Fashion District's 2 new curb extensions. These are curbs stretched a few extra feet to the street with drought-tolerant landscaping for a livelier look. And because there's more curb space, walking across the street takes a shorter amount of time. Hopefully this makes crossing safer.
And there's a little pedestrian level light right here, which I'm not sure I've ever seen before. A light that's only about maybe 3 or 4 feet tall, that will help delineate this as a safe crossing at night.
I just think it's Los Angeles Street kind of coming back to its glory.
The families of Lori Rosen and Lori Sale have owned properties in the Fashion District since the 1940s. The area is home to 2,000 independently owned apparel shops. Property owners are pumped over all the recent changes.
And now just seeing the new residents come in and the dogs, and it's an exciting place to be.
Community.
Yeah, it's a community, that's true.
And you know, and what they've done here is phenomenal.
The city is refurbishing 13,000 square feet of sidewalk, adding 27 new trees and more curb ramps for easier wheelchair access in the Fashion District.
Improving the sidewalks, improving the safety, putting more trees, more lighting, that helps everybody. And we cannot underestimate the importance that downtown LA plays in the economic vitality of the region. 500,000 people come to work in downtown each and every day, and there's more space for growth.
Councilman Jose Huizar and the city family celebrate this renaissance. Improvements just in the Fashion District are underway on Los Angeles Street between 7th and Olympic. I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Other downtown communities undergoing massive street improvements include Little Tokyo and the Arts District. A $2 million grant from the group Metro Call are helping to make the Fashion District's upgrades possible. Well, lights, camera, action. The Making Movies That Matter Youth Short Film Festival is back for its 3rd year, giving LA youth new ways to express themselves and new skills for the future. Anna Marcos joins us from Cal State Northridge with more. Anna.
Yana, about 1,700 people are crowding into this theater. Among them, 1,000 young filmmakers about to watch some of their more than 100 short films they've made. And it's all part of the Making Movies That Matter Youth Short Film Festival put on by Councilmember Mitch Englander.
Of course, there's a red carpet at this film screening, and you've got to look good.
It's a really nice event. I mean, look at everyone here. They're so nice. And it would be weird to just wear pants, so I came beautiful.
But the Making Movies That Matter Youth Short Film Festival is so much more. It's about making films that mean something to these students of all grade levels and letting them have a voice. It's the reason Councilmember Mitch Englander started the event, now in its third year.
It's just amazing, and this gives them an opportunity. It's not just about, here's a deadline, submit your own film. We have artists and residents that actually work with all the kids in editing and writing and producing. It's all written and directed by the kids, and they act in it. It's all from their voice and their vision.
The students get 4 months of training and workshops on how to make movies, then they do it, which leads to this award ceremony. From movies about puppets to school misfits and best friends, to illegal immigrants, to living with diseases. No subject is off limits.
We made a movie about cystic fibrosis, which is a lung disease that I have. And we all wanted to support her and make this video to spread awareness all about it.
The story I wrote was about a Hispanic immigrant worker. And I have personal connections with that. My parents are Hispanics, and my dad was an immigrant.
It's important to me to express myself in this way because in other ways I'm not easily able to connect to and express myself with them.
And this year, a group from a homeless shelter took part, as did a program for at-risk and low-income youth and a group of disabled young adults.
Our community is also capable of doing these sorts of things as well.
But yes, it's also about who gets the award. Patrick Henry Middle School students are hoping the third time is a charm. They have won every time in the last 2 years.
I think we can win because we all put our hearts and souls into the films that we make.
And when they do, for the real-life story of a boy who has challenges walking, the theme, in spite of our differences, we are not all that different. Looks like this festival may be on a path to turning out some of LA's future filmmakers. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
More than a dozen awards were handed out for documentaries, PSAs, live action, and animated films at various grade levels. It's one of LA's biggest and most exotic weekend parties, and it's free. The 38th annual Lotus Festival is set to attract tens of thousands of visitors, and organizers want to give you a taste of what's to come. Anna Marcos shows us which country is hosting the event at Echo Park this year.
You'd swear you were in China if it wasn't for the LA skyline in the background. The Lotus Festival press luncheon with its dragon red themes is just a sneak preview of what's in store. Come July 14th and 15th, Echo Park will be transformed as the 38th annual Lotus Festival kicks off.
The lake and the entire park environment is going to be alive with culture and art and fun and music and the paddleboat races.
The festival celebrates the diversity of Asian and Pacific Islander culture, and each year a different country plays host. This year it's China.
Chinese community has contributed to the prosperity, diversity, and vitality of this great city of Los Angeles.
And Councilmember David Ryu promises it will feature plenty of drama.
You can see all the red backdrop and the dragons and the dragon boat racing we are all going to participate in.
We're not sure whom he means by all, but it appears Councilmember David Ryu himself will be among the intrepid dragon boat racers. But if boat races aren't your thing and you want a more mellow pastime, there's a new thing this year, a wine garden. And then there's all those lotuses to watch and new people to meet.
Without the parks, the public, has no way of, getting out and meeting their neighbors and coming out to what is a free event for a weekend, which is a beautiful cultural, a lot of diversity event.
You can start in on the fun a day early. Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell plans to throw a huge opening party at Echo Park at 6 p.m. on Friday, July 13th. Yep, Friday the 13th, but fear not. Think of all the fun as 100,000 people from all walks of life converge on the park for a little Lotus fun. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The Lotus Festival will be open from noon to 9 p.m. on both Saturday, July 14th and Sunday, July 15th at Echo Park. Well, it's a way to build healthier communities and give kids some safe summer fun. We're talking about the LA Department of Rec and Parks Operation Splash, which just hit the pools this summer. Anna Marcos takes us to one opening party at a city pool in Glassell Park.
Operation Splash has just made its splashy entrance at pools throughout LA with the help of these elegant synchronized swimmers from the Department of Recreation and Parks' own swim teams.
It's helped me with my flexibility and my strength and courage.
Operation Splash is a free summer program that teaches kids in LA's low-income neighborhoods how to swim, have fun in the water, and stay safe.
I grew up a little bit around 9 and 10. I started taking my first swim lessons at Expo Center. That was pretty fun. I really liked that pool. Growing up in South LA, not too many people knew how to swim, especially in my area.
Thank you for supporting a program that allows all kids, no matter where they live, to have the opportunity to learn how to swim.
And I can definitely see the quality of life improving around our parks. And I hope the public sees it, and I hope you enjoy all of our pools.
How about that? And for most of these girls, it all started with Operation Splash. The program hopes to give at least 36,000 kids swim lessons this summer. That's a lot of swimming.
I was afraid to do anything at all, really.
Water?
Yes. After the swim lessons, I thought maybe, hey, I could do it, you know.
It helps me survive, like, if there's a flood. It helps me, like, keep my body in shape.
The program has partnered with Kaiser Permanente and the LA 84 Foundation to get even more swim lessons out to the kids.
It saves lives not just through water safety, though. We save lives through getting people active, right? Heart health, losing weight, being more active.
After 13 years of summer fun, its former students are now synchronized swimmers, athletes, lifeguards, and who knows, maybe even a future Olympian or two.
The Olympics are coming back to Los Angeles in 10 short years, but those children that are 10 years old, that are 8 years old, that are learning to swim now, they're going to be at the prime age that they can chase that Olympic dream.
As if there weren't already enough reasons to make a big splash in the pool this summer. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
You can sign up for Operation Splash at swimla.org. New improvements on the I-110-405 interchange are getting underway. The LAPD and the LGBTQ community get together for a special evening, and Metro is one step closer to connecting all of its rail lines. All these stories in City Beat. Mayor Eric Garcetti gave remarks at the groundbreaking celebration of the I-110-405 interchange improvement project. Garcetti said that LA County will grow by 500,000 people over the next decade and that the city needs to be prepared.
The improvements we're making are going to ensure that the demand that we have here, existing demand, is handled better and that we're better positioned for the future as well.
The LAPD and the LGBTQ community recently came together for the 4th annual LGBTQ Community Mixer at police headquarters. The purpose of the event is to unite leaders in the LGBTQ community with leaders at LAPD who are helping build bridges to make sure the department is serving and protecting our LGBT friends and loved ones.
LGBTQ officers 10 years ago could only dream of an event like this.
Metro held a community event at the Japanese American National Museum Plaza to celebrate construction progress on the Regional Connector Transit Project. The event featured live entertainment, art workshops, and family activities.
The future of Los Angeles is about rail, it's about public transportation as we continue to grow.
Angelenos with no medical insurance took advantage of free health screenings for a day, while those with coverage were able to avoid long lines at the clinic. Gil Reyes takes us to a senior health fair sponsored by the city.
Use it or lose it. Good advice for seniors on the importance of staying active and working those muscles in the golden years. At this health fair in Watts, older adults also took advantage of a number of free screenings, like blood pressure and thyroid testing, also mammograms.
I lost my Kaiser benefits a couple of weeks ago, so this way I'm able to get some eye exam for new glasses, and also I'm going to take the mammogram because it's so important that when you don't have benefits to take advantage of services like this.
The fair coincided with National Senior Health and Fitness Day and hosted by the LA City Department of Recreation and Parks.
You don't need to make an appointment. There's no long lines.
Leslie Richter from Rec and Parks urges people to take advantage of these rare city-backed checkups. She also did.
They found a 6-millimeter cyst on my thyroid on my right side, and they were very clear that I should reach out to my physician, and so that we could just keep an eye on it. So I thought that was really helpful because who knew?
Senior healthcare provider Humana sponsored the event. Sponsors make events possible, and more are needed to keep free, speedy, possibly life-saving services going in your area.
And so the call goes out for other healthcare providers and big businesses to sponsor future events such as this one. You can call Leslie Richter from the Department of Recreation and Parks. That's the number at the bottom of your screen, 213-485-7512. I'm Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
There are no more city-sponsored health fairs planned for any time soon, but organizations can change that by sponsoring the event. Cheer on the athletes or volunteer to help out at the Angel City Games, watch a movie under the stars at Griffith Park, or check out the biggest carnival and culture festival in LA. All this in this week's Things to Do. The City of Los Angeles Department on Disability is co-sponsoring the 2018 Angel City Games. The games feature clinics and competitions in track and field, wheelchair basketball, wheelchair tennis, swimming, and archery. Angel City Games takes place June 21st through the 24th at UCLA. Complete event information can be found at angelcitygames.org. Bring a picnic blanket and head over to the Autry South Lawn to watch the movie Clerks, projected onto the largest outdoor movie screen on the West Coast. The fun begins at 5:30 on Saturday, June 23rd. The Autry in Griffith Park is located at 4700 Western Heritage Way. As space is limited, reservations are recommended. For more, visit eatseehere.com. The Los Angeles Culture Festival and Hollywood Carnival are proud to present the annual Los Angeles Culture Festival. Hollywood Boulevard will transform into a grand carnival and street extravaganza. The fun takes place Saturday, June 23rd, between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. at Hollywood Boulevard and Normandy in Los Feliz. For more info, visit HollywoodCarnival.com. And that's a look at some things to do. Well, that's going to do it for this edition. I'm Yana Kane from all of us here at LA This Week. Thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Hey, buddy! You with the stupid hat. Come here. Closer. No parking! Do you know what happens when you park illegally on these narrow hillside streets? You block the street so emergency vehicles can't pass. Each year, homes are destroyed and lives are lost because of drivers like you who park illegally! And you know what else? You can get a citation. And you can be towed.
Help us get to the emergency. The life we save just might be yours.
How'd you know?
The ball called.
Hey, look out for the pothole.
Hi, I'm Kevin from Chatsworth, offering you a taste of New Orleans since 1986. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. If I could ask everyone to please take a seat. If I could ask everyone to please take a seat. Today is Wednesday, June 20th. I want to welcome you to the Los Angeles City Council. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. The public is welcome. Mr. Clerk, I do believe we have a quorum. Would you call a roll?
Blumenfield, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Angder, Harris, Sasson, Weezer, Koretska, Crane, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rodriguez, Rue, Wesson, 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Weezer moves, O'Farrell seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Okay, Bonin moves, Blumenfield seconds. That brings us where?
Mr. President, there is a request to continue item 1B to July 31st.
Okay, so ordered. Continue.
Items 1 through 6 are items noticed for public hearing. Mr. President, after hearing public comment on item 1A, it should be received and filed inasmuch as the lien was partially rescinded and the balance paid.
Okay, let's do that. Do we have cards on the remaining items?
Yes, sir, cards on all.
Okay, let's continue.
Items 7 through 33 are items for which public hearings have been held. Committee reports for items 7, 31, and 32 have been posted and circulated for council's consideration.
Okay, members, any specials? I don't see any specials on these items, so why don't we proceed and vote on these? So if I could ask Madam Clerk if you'd please open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That brings us where, Mr. Clerk?
And, Mr. President, those ordinances will go over for a second read unless reconsidered later today with 12 members. Further, there was a request to send item 18 forthwith.
Okay, Mr. Blumenfield, I thought I saw you with your hand up.
21 and 22 go forthwith as well, please.
Okay, items 21 and 22 forthwith. Mr. O'Farrell.
3 as well.
33 forthwith as well. Please continue, Mr. Clerk.
Very good, sir. Items 34 and 35 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body. Do you have cards on these items?
Yes, sir. Cards on both.
Okay, then let's continue.
That brings us to items 36 through 39. They're items scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold them on the desk?
I think let us hold them for a bit and allow me the opportunity to chat with the city attorney's office.
Very good, sir. That brings us to presentations, items called special or general public comment for items not on council's agenda.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Clerk, I just had a brief conversation with the city attorney's office and have been informed that we should proceed with items 36 through 39 and that they can be dealt with in open session. If you would please read those items and then we will take a vote.
Very good, sir. For item 36, in the case entitled Alicia Emerson versus Los Angeles Police Department, there is a recommendation to expend up to $220,000 in settlement. For item 37, in the case entitled Roxandra Garcia versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend $150,000 in settlement. For item 38, in the case entitled Maria A. Navarrete versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend up to $675,000 in settlement. And for item 39, in the case entitled Miguel Vargas, Hazy Velasquez, Annie Vargas, a minor through her guardian ad litem Miguel Vargas, versus City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend $370,000 in settlement.
Okay, thank you. So members, let's prepare to vote on those items. That's items 36 through 39. Madam Clerk, if you would please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay. Oh, and on those items 36 through 39, Mr. Clerk, if we could move those forthwith.
Very good, sir.
All right.
Wesson. Mr. City Attorney, while we have 12 members present, why don't we reconsider the ordinances? Go ahead.
Madam President, that would be a 2-vote item. The first is on reconsideration.
Okay, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote. Because those items are not before us.
Those were 12 ayes. Those items are now
12
before
ayes.
you.
Okay, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote. There's been a request to send item number 10 forthwith.
12 ayes.
Without objection, that will be the order. Thank you very much, Mr. Wesson.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President and members. I'd like to ask to be joined by our dear friend and colleague, Mike Feuer, the City Attorney. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask that our great Chief of Police, Charlie Beck, join us. Let's give the Chief a round of applause. Members, it would be real easy for me to stand before you on this day. Wait a minute, let's let up. Everybody. See, I'd like to go back to the old neighborhood where I grew up with this group and all of the big guys that picked on me.
Yeah. Get some of that lunch
Yeah,
money back?
yeah, I could get a little bit of that lunch money back, Chief. Yeah, you're right. You know, it would really be easy for me to stand before you and just rattle off the decades of service that Chief Beck has given to the great city of Los Angeles, to go through his various promotions and what part of the city he worked in, and he did this and he did that. But I don't want to do that today, because it is with great pride that I stand before you to say that Charlie Beck, yes, he is the chief of police of the greatest city on the planet, but more importantly to me, he is not just my friend. He is a dear friend. If somebody would have asked me when I was 15 or 16 years old, given where I grew up, if I could ever envision myself standing in front of a podium to say, good work, thank you, good luck to your new endeavors to a chief of police, I would have said, you're crazy. Members, when I grew up, when we saw the police coming one way, we went the other way. If you were on your front porch and the police came down the street, you went in the house or in the backyard. When I was a kid growing up, basically we were taught to say 4 things to the police, just 4 things. Yes, sir. No, sir. I didn't do anything, and I don't know anything. That was the extent of every conversation that I ever had as a young man with individuals from law enforcement. I am just so proud and amazed that over my life I have evolved. I have created, or relationships have been created that will last a lifetime, and it is with great pride that I stand here today to say thank you to my dear friend, Chief Beck. Now, we have come a long way as LAPD, or as a society, as a city, and there's still a long way to go, but I do believe that we are doing our very best to move in the right direction. I can remember years ago sitting right over there where Ms. Rodriguez is sitting now, on the day that the chief came before us and we made him the chief. And he and I chatted on the side, and I said to the chief, I said, Chief, I try to be a low maintenance type of a guy. So if I ever call you If I ever call you, it's usually because it's important. So about 6 months passes, Chief's been on the job. I make a call to him. He is doing some very, very important conference or something at our police academy. I assumed that the chief was going to call me back when he was finished at the end of the day. Within 3 minutes, my phone rings. It's Chief Beck on the phone, and he says, look, you never call me. This must be an emergency. And I said, well, Chief, really it's not. I saw you on television last night. There was a basketball challenge between the fire department and the police department, and they had the fire chief and our chief shooting free throws. It was the most hideous thing that I ever saw. So I told the chief, I'm just calling you that if you're ever on television with a basketball again, just dribble it, do not shoot it. So I want to say that that's the first conversation that we ever had. But whenever I have called the chief, he has always responded. He has always been creative. He has done a good job and has always had my back. And I'm proud to say that I believe that I will always had his. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a man before us today that I think all of us owe a debt of gratitude for a variety of things. But one thing that I'm going to say is that the chief did the very best that he could to provide all of us with a bench, a diverse group of individuals that have been properly trained. And as we go through the process of selecting new chiefs or what have you, I do think it's important that we invest in our own, and that's one thing that the chief has done, and that's why the next chief or the chief that will be recommended to this body is homegrown from LAPD, and a lot of that should be attributed directly to Chief Charlie Beck. Let's give him another round of applause. So, Chief, you know, there are many other stories that I can tell where it relates to our relationship, but I will not do that because we don't need anybody to know the kind of stuff that we talked about. That's private. But I do want to afford the members the opportunity to chat with you so that they can let you know how appreciative they are. And members, I'm so proud to have joining with me today a person who used to sit around this horseshoe himself, an individual who also has legislative experience in the California State Legislature, and that's our, you know, public safety is about teamwork, and so this is a very important partner where it relates to this stool, so to speak, that takes 4 legs to prop up public safety. So I'd like to present to you our own city attorney, Mike Feuer.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Thank you, President Wesson. I just want to say a few things. I was thinking as I was standing here about the fact that I first got to know Chief Beck almost 23 years ago when I was the Vice Chair of Public Safety on the City Council. Wow. And he was already a well-known and widely respected leader within the police force. Since that time, I think all of us have come to know Chief Beck as a strong and steady leader in very challenging times, able to continue to inspire trust in the police department and to keep our city safe. Chief Beck and our office, we've been working very closely together, certainly since I've been city attorney, on an array of issues. And it gives you a sense of the scope of responsibilities for which Chief Beck is well known. Work together on our efforts to grapple with those houses that are the sources of gangs and guns and drugs in neighborhoods and change those neighborhoods forever. worked on gun violence together, both here in Los Angeles and as a national matter. Grappled with domestic violence issues, domestic abuse, especially in the wake of revelations around the country of how pervasive it really is. Chief Beck, known around the nation as a leader on that issue, and combating hate crimes in an era when we all know it's become challenging to assure that every member of our community feels comfortable coming forward. And in these particularly perilous times, working closely together to assure that we protect the public safety and also stand up for justice and civil rights here in our city and around the nation. Chief Beck, one of the leaders in the country in assuring that we strike that appropriate balance and in making sure that every member of our community knows that they can come forward and be a partner in pursuing public safety, whether they're a victim or a witness of crime. It's been a source of great pride to me to have this more than two-decade relationship with Charlie Beck, someone who, again, I came to respect at a very early stage, and my respect for him has only grown as our relationship has evolved. What an honor, Chief, to be able to serve with you in Los Angeles at this critical moment. Thank you for your service, and congratulations on what's going to be a wonderful next chapter in your extraordinary life.
Mr. Cedillo?
Mr. President, you outlined a history that we have in common about how we were raised. My father came to this city, as you know, in 1941, and it was the LA Confidential, LAPD, that he grew up with. It was the Zoot Suit riots that were around him. He was a very young man, and he would frequently be stopped by the police and slapped around, just as a matter of course. They didn't understand how a young man was here in Los Angeles living by himself, and they didn't know what to do with him. So for whatever reason, they thought, well, we'll just slap you around and, put you in line. So I grew up with the same stories that you did, the same rules, the same regulations. If you got stopped, it was your fault. The same instructions. Yes, sir, no, sir. Didn't do it. Don't know anything about it. Then it was part of the Chicano movement here in Los Angeles. I'm class of 72, like the chief. And so it was a time of change, a time of changing attitudes, a time of new accountability. And so we've grown up, seen the department change and evolve. And through my work, I've had relationships with most of the chiefs, actually all the chiefs in the post-Daryl Gates era. And I just have to say, with respect to Chief Beck, that you are a courageous man, that you are fearless, that you step into these issues and these controversies without any pause or hesitation. You're thoughtful, you're considerate. And I say this to you because I spend so much of my time and work representing and advocating for those on the margins. Today is a difficult time to be an immigrant in this country, to be a Latino in this country. You are the spear, the tip of the spear in this assault on our society and our democracy. And you have moved this department. And like the president says, it's amazing for us to stand up and be your advocate, to be your promoter, to be your champion in our communities, to say this is not that old LAPD. This is a new, professional, thoughtful, considerate, your friend to protect and to serve you. It's amazing to see these changes, and you have provided that leadership. And so, like the president, I've got a lot of stories you and I could share, but we'll keep them to ourselves, save them for another night. But I want the record to reflect my incredible appreciation for you, for your leadership, for what you've done to help move this city forward. And as we continue on this path where the words protect and serve mean for everyone. Thank you so much, Chief. Thank you for your leadership, and God bless you. Enjoy the time off.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Ms. Rodriguez, followed by Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, you know, I've had the shortest amount of time to work with you, but in that very brief opportunity that I've had, I've grown to truly appreciate your commitment to our youth. And when we talk about the potential and the future of this department and how it continues to grow in the right direction, it's reflective of the diversity, and that commitment is reflected in your leadership. And I am truly grateful to have had an opportunity to work alongside you as it relates to our cadet program at a time when it was also facing some of its own struggles. You took that on head on. You did not relent, and you demonstrated the department's commitment and your leadership and your commitment to making sure that there was integrity in that program. And I appreciated your swift action when it did come under a cloud of challenge. You rose to the occasion, and you absolutely made sure that we collectively were reflective of our commitment as a city to the youth and creating a safe environment so that we could create the next generation of LAPD that was homegrown. And so I want to thank you for you exemplifying our commitment here as a body as well to making sure that the citizens of Los Angeles are safe, that our kids have a safe haven in LAPD and are embraced by our city and will be protected. And I want to thank you for, again, the men and women that are reflected behind you are a reflection of your leadership and your values. There's some incredible people there, and a lot of people that aren't standing here with us today, but are clearly a true reflection of your leadership and your values. And I want to thank you so much for your incredible years of service to this city. I wish you the very best in your retirement, all the wonderful time with your grandkids. And again, thank you for everything, your years of service. You've left an indelible mark on this city and in this department, and I thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Mr. O'Farrell, followed by Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Madam President. I think being a Los Angeles police officer is probably the toughest job in the city of Los Angeles. And I think being chief of the Los Angeles Police Department is that times 10,000. I got a window into your ability, your integrity, your sense of professionalism back in 2002 when I was a deputy for my predecessor, when you were captain, commanding officer at Rampart. The Rampart scandal was in everyone's rearview mirror, and you were able to steer Rampart Division away from that so beautifully. And you did that, I think, by exhibiting the power of your character and your leadership. And I remember you pioneered an initiative of putting cameras that shined in MacArthur Park on public property, and with the notices that went up along with the cameras, crime was reduced in the double digits overnight. And I'll never forget that. And not only have you had the backs of your police force, our backs, as the council president mentioned, you had the back of the community. And you left Rampart Division and that entire coverage area exponentially better than when you took over. And that was when you were captain in 2002. And so I am so privileged to have had just a little slice of that. And I've probably called you less than 5 times in the last 5 years because I believe in the principle that our president conveyed. But I certainly called you more often back in the day when you were captain, and you were and are always so available and so accessible. And I think that is your reputation because you respect those you work with. You appreciate the great work and the sacrifice of all of the men and women in the LAPD because you know that in the city of Los Angeles, you know, We strive to improve the quality of life in the districts that we represent. But I think what we don't appreciate often enough is there would be no quality of life at all in the city of Los Angeles if people didn't feel safe where they lived or where they worked. And for that, I want to thank the entire LAPD, but I especially want to thank you for a remarkable 8 years as our police chief. I hope you feel very, very proud of your accomplishments, navigating through extremely tough times, all the while keeping crime under control. Despite new police reporting standards, we're a much safer city and we're better off, and that's how you're leaving us. And I think that you have set incoming Chief Moore up for success, and I expect the trajectory of improvements in the department to continue well into the future. You've left us all better off as a result. So on behalf of the constituents of the 13th District, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell. Mr. Roof, followed by Mr. Bonin.
Madam President. And I also wanted to rise and join the chorus to thank you, Chief Beck. You are a courageous leader, a very thoughtful and with the utmost professionalism, and a man who is truly dedicated to the city of Los Angeles. And in particular, I really want to thank you for all your work with the neighborhoods. And as we know, your commitment to serve all of our diverse communities, in particular all of our immigrant communities. And that's what makes Los Angeles stronger and the LAPD stronger and a safer community. And talking about that, your expansion of neighborhood patrols. I know the work with my colleagues, Councilmember Bonin and Englander, to look at the basic car service area and try to reform that. Because we know that nothing deters crime than presence of an LAPD officer. So, and also as Councilmember Cedillo was talking about, and the President, Special Order 40, your stand on that. Thank you for everything that you've done. You've helped build the LAPD into what it is today, something that where all the men and women of the LAPD can be proud of, and the city of Los Angeles can be proud of. Congratulations on your much well-deserved retirement, and thank you so much for your service. Thank you, David.
Mr. Bonin, followed by Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Chief, for your service to Los Angeles as Chief and for all those years before then. I was thinking back to the day you got named as Chief, and I remember sitting in my office upstairs as a staffer listening to the press conference, and I remember the emotion that you brought to that press conference, talking about your family history. And how personal policing Los Angeles was to you. And you have definitely brought that to this city. I could tell that this was not just a job for you, but this was a mission, and this was a department that you loved and a city that you loved. I've been thinking back on some moments. There's a lot of times we agreed and a lot of times we disagreed. I think I pestered you more than at least some of my colleagues that have spoken, probably less than some others. But I want to thank you for listening, because when I first took office and there were lots of problems in Venice, you listened to me and you spent time and you walked the boardwalk with me. And you talked to the residents and you talked to the cops and you talked through the problems. And that meant a lot to me that you were willing to take that time on the ground. I was annoyed that you kept stealing all my good captains. John Peters, good to see you back there. Again and again, whenever I had a good captain, I'd get him for like 3 weeks and then you'd promote him. But that's because you nurtured and developed good talent. I want to thank you for, as Mr. Rue said, the additional officers that you've been putting on patrol and into our neighborhoods over the past few months. That has made a difference, and I really appreciate that you sat and you listened to our budget committee as we talked about that, and you understood the importance of it, and you found a way to make that work. I really, really deeply appreciate that. I also want to echo what Mr. Cedillo and Mr. Rue said about immigration and Special Order 40. At a time when immigration is one of the most talked about issues in the country and one of the ugliest and most polarized issues and those who have a position that is harmful and destructive cloak themselves in the aura of law and order. Your reasoned, compassionate perspective as a symbol of law and order meant a lot. It meant a whole lot to people in this city who were scared. And I think that cannot be overstated how important that is. And the final thing I want to thank you for is something that you did which I'm sure was difficult and was controversial. When Brendan Glenn was shot and killed on Venice Beach a couple years ago, you saw that video, as did I, and you expressed concerns. And later you called on Jackie Lacey to act. And I know that was difficult. And I know that was controversial and unpopular, probably even with some of the men standing around you today. That was important. And I think you did the right thing. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you for having done that. That was leadership, and that told me a lot about who Charlie Beck is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Bonin. Mr. Koretz, followed by Mr. Blumenfield.
Thank you, Madam President. And I want to thank you for your tremendous leadership of the best police department in the entire country and for maintaining that and improving it. And I think it can't be overstated the fact that you've dedicated your adult life to this department with such vigor and passion, and that your family has dedicated their lives to law enforcement. I think it's an incredible story, and I commend you for it. I particularly appreciate your efforts at community policing over the years, and I think you've been a tremendous leader in that area, and we greatly appreciate it. I know you're a role model for the officers in this department and for the leadership of this department, and for even folks like Chief Moore, who are going to step into your shoes but can follow your excellent example. And I do want to thank you for your response to one call of mine, and I don't know if you remember it or not, but back when we were having the swatting problem, and we intentionally didn't publicize this at the time, but I did swatting legislation, and the next day I was swatted. So I got out of the shower, and my doorbell rang, and the heavy knocks on the door, and so I ran down the stairs naked. I opened the little peephole, and there were officers with their guns drawn. There were multiple pieces of fire equipment up and down the block.
Reasons we don't talk about.
And they said, we were here because we were told shots were fired at Magic Johnson's home. Well, if you've ever been to my place, there's no way you would confuse it with Magic Johnson's home. But, and they were insisting that I open the door and come outside. I'm like, not to save my life am I going to do that. But I did call the chief, and he picked up the phone, and I asked the folks outside if the chief of police said, go away, will you do that? They said yes. So I handed them the phone, and he told them to go away. Unfortunately, they did. But some of these swatting incidents have been serious, and people have been injured and killed as a result. We came, yeah, that might be a little too much information, but at least we didn't share it with the media, which was,
We did not.
which
the
was
media's here today.
a strategic decision. And I think we pretty much have solved that problem and are not having that repeat, which I appreciate. But I appreciate you getting me out of a jam and possibly even saving my life. I don't know. So you have helped protect and save many others, and so I appreciate that personally as well.
Thank you, Paul.
Madam President, I am blind in one eye listening.
I don't even know what to say. Mr. Koretz for the win. Try to top that, Mr. Blumenfield.
Yeah, I don't think I can top that.
I don't have any images that you can never unsee to unveil today that will help with this. So I'm just going to just express my heartfelt gratitude. No imagery in that gratitude. Just to know that Angelenos are safer because of you. The city is safer because of you. The police department is stronger in so many ways, not just the numbers, but you have built a foundation, and you've taken a department and you've really fortified it in many very positive ways. A lot of things were mentioned, and I appreciate too the community policing. I also appreciate the CompStat. You took that to a whole new level in terms of using data-driven policing, making things happen for real reasons. And being able to explain that to the community why that is, and it's been incredibly important. As was mentioned, Special Order 40. I always appreciated you stood up to President Trump. He was blaming L.A. for. I remember there was one incident where he was blaming us for releasing somebody who had committed a murder, and you went on, national radio and TV and said, no, he's actually completely wrong. Not only did the murder happen before this detainer orders were ever done, but even if the president did give us detainer orders, we don't honor illegal detainer orders. And you put that out there straight and forward, and I appreciated it, and Angelenos appreciated that you were standing up for all of us and for what we believe, and you are our police chief in many good ways. So other things, the body cam, you also brought that through. And in fact, you came to my district, and the police commission had one of its meetings there to talk about body cams, and there was a lot of tumult in the audience about that issue, and you were very clear-minded about it and spoke very plainly to people about the positives and the negatives and why we were moving forward with it. And I always appreciated the fact that, and do appreciate the fact that you are very straightforward in our conversations and in your conversations with folks in general. And you've built a great team. I'm looking behind you. You have an incredible team. And that's when you say, when I say you've built this department, it's you've built leadership, and that is important, and that will be a legacy that lasts on and into the future. So thank you for your service, and good luck in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blumenfield. Mr. Weezer, followed by Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Madam President. And Mr. Koretz, I remember that day. I remember you called me and said, can you make your voice sound like Chief Beck? And I said, sure. You said, just say, go away, and I did that. So I remember that day quite well. Now, Chief Beck, you've had an incredible, extraordinary career, and you should be proud. We, the residents of Los Angeles, are proud of your work. Whenever I've dealt with you or worked with you, you gave me the confidence that things will get done and the right thing will be done, and that's what you brought to the LAPD. I also recall, as Councilmember Bonin did, the day you were here being sworn in, and the emotion that was brought not only by yourself, but your family, the department, and everyone else, because of what it meant to you and to all of us to have someone like you and your family dedicated to the LAPD and the safety of the city now be at the helm of this great department. So I am just incredibly happy that we've had someone like you at the helm of this department, a diverse city with lots of issues. But you know what? Working together, you've shown us what's possible in a city as diverse as ours, to work together with our residents to show them what's possible, to show the rest of the world what's possible when we have a city as diverse as ours. So thank you for your service. You have been, with all candor to us, to our residents, you've brought the truth to all of us, been transparent, and that's nothing less than what the public deserves and wants. And most importantly, in my view, LAPD is now respected by all neighborhoods in the city, and LAPD respects all our neighborhoods, and that's so important. Thank you for what you've done. God bless you.
Mr. Krikorian, followed by Mr. Price.
Thank you, Madam President. Chief, we're all rising to thank you appropriately, but I think we're thanking you not just on our own behalf, but on behalf of 4 million people in this city who are safer now because of your leadership. We're thanking you on behalf of 10,000 officers and a couple of thousand civilians who are part of your department, who enjoy a stronger and more caring department than the one that they had when you started. And I think some of my colleagues, Mr. Cedillo, Mr. President, spoke so eloquently about the old LAPD and how different the new LAPD is, and how much progress you've made as chief in continuing that progress. This was a department that, was kind of nationally known for its machismo and its lack of diversity, for its lack of compassion for people who didn't look like the officers that filled the department. Not too long ago, as Mr. President described, as Mr. Cedillo described, their personal experiences. And now that is no longer the case. That is clearly no longer the case. And under your leadership, you took it to a new level. When you would go and reach out to every community in this district, in this city, sometimes that was not easy. And sometimes, I'm sure, even within the department, there was tension when you did that. For you to do personally, to do the outreach that you've done, for example, to the LGBT community, for you to go personally and interact with our transgender community. Not too many years ago, the idea that any police officer would do that, let alone the chief of police, would have been unimaginable. But you set that standard right from the top. At a time nationally when there is such a racial divide around policing issues, you've stepped right into the maw of that, fearlessly listening, standing up for the department when need be, and standing up for the people that the department interacts with when need be, without fear, and with compassion and with an open mind, with open ears. When it comes to our immigrant community, as so many of my colleagues have said, they feel safer because Charlie Beck was the chief of police. But it's more than just sort of the role of the chief. You're doing that more than just because it's your job as chief. It's clear to us, and it should be clear to everybody in the city, but maybe they don't get to see it in press conferences like we do when we interact with you personally. This is a function of who you are as a man. This is a product of your personal compassion for human beings, the compassion that we've all seen too often at the funerals of police officers who've died in the line of duty. When you've spoken about your relationship with them and the job that they do, when you've spoken about the badge you wear and the sidearm you carry, when you've told those stories about your connection to the history of this department and to each of those who we've lost. So I've been moved by that, and I think many of us have, about the heart that you've brought to this job. And at a time, as Mr. Bonin, I think, very succinctly and eloquently said, nationally, when that's not a part of our dialogue much anymore, when there's a false juxtaposition between law and order and caring about people, when the national dialogue is trying to make those seem as though they are mutually exclusive, you have proven to the nation that they are not mutually exclusive, that they're in many ways mutually interdependent. And we've seen that with the progress that we've made. As you've helped to change the LAPD, you have driven down crime to record lows at the same time. And that's a part that we don't talk about very much, that no one seems to recognize. But at a time when our economy collapsed, unemployment was at record levels in this city. We had an economy that was at a state that we hadn't seen since the Great Depression. This is the exact time when crime should be spiking throughout the city. But each and every year, the men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department, under your leadership, brought crime down to the point that we are safer now than we've ever been since before I was born. And people out there, I think, don't fully appreciate what a monumental achievement that has been for you, for the men and women that serve under you, for the communities that you've built relationships with, and how effective that relationship building has been. So you're leaving here with a legacy of a safer city, a stronger LAPD, and a national example of how we can create a safer nation for ourselves while still not being a hateful nation, being a caring, compassionate nation that still makes, in which law enforcement can still make us safer. You've demonstrated that here in Los Angeles, and I hope the rest of the nation will learn the lessons that you've taught us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Price.
Thank you, Madam President. Chief, everything has been said, but everyone hasn't said it. And so let me just chime in and express my appreciation for your service over these past 8 years. As one of the oldest members around the Horseshoe, and probably one of the older members in this room, I do remember the LAPD of old. And as many have suggested, it was an institution we weren't all proud of, and we certainly were not all treated fairly with. But it's a new day now. It is a new day, and certainly in the last 8 years, under your leadership, you have brought in the kind of progressive, positive leadership that I think has been a real role model for other law enforcement officers around the country. I know that you spent some time in South LA, in South Bureau, as the incoming chief has, and I like to think that really has given you the kind of background and training and sensitivity to promote many of the programs that have become real signatures in the LAPD. Certainly our community-based policing is an important component of that. We certainly need to make more improvements there, but it's been a tremendous job encouraging citizens to come forward and to believe that the police are here to be our friends and to provide services. And so I just want to thank you for your leadership, your willingness to take a call, your willingness to come out to the neighborhoods. We've walked the streets, a couple of parks together, always willing to listen, and I think that's the kind of quality we want to have in our law enforcement leadership. So again, thank you for the role you've played. Certainly our police are here to protect, to serve, and under your leadership you've demonstrated that it's also to respect, and so we appreciate that. Congratulations and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Back to you, Mr. Wesson.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for our chief, Chief Charlie Beck.
So I get 2 minutes? You know, I cannot thank this body enough. I've had the pleasure of being your chief of police for almost 9 years now, and I tell people when they ask, because everybody asks, you know, how is the city? What's the health of the city? And I tell them, you know, this is the best council I have ever worked with, and I mean that. I mean that. This is by far the council that works the hardest and gets the most done and believes in the right things and understands that you can't govern one city 15 ways. You know, you have to have compromise. You have to put interests together and separate self-interest. And this council is great because of that. And so I want to thank you for giving me the kind of council that I can be so proud of to work with. And, you know, that certainly has not always been the relationship between chiefs and councils. You know, I use as my primary example, you know, the years in the past when the mayor and the chief of police and the city council didn't interact with each other at all. And in fact, were separated by walls of opinion and divides of intention. And that is not the way this city is anymore. We have a great mayor, a great council. You're going to appoint a great chief next Wednesday, and this city is in the absolute best shape to move forward that it ever has been. Now, we got stuff we have to work on, and everybody knows what it is, and we are poised to be able to deal with homelessness, to deal with mental health issues better than we've ever been able to do so in the past. And I think that's what I look forward to. You know, we have, as you've all said, and I thank you for the acknowledgement, we have made a significant impact on crime, especially violent crime. You know, it's the people behind me have given you 8 years in a row, and it's going to be 9 years in a row, of under 300 homicides a year in this city. The last chief of police to give that to their council was Tom Redden. Wow. And the city was 1 million less people. So if that gives you any idea of the effectiveness of the people behind me, you know, what I would ask is that you continue to support the Los Angeles Police Department in the way that you have supported us over the last 9 years. And that you continue to believe in not every action of the police department, because I don't do that, and I don't expect the people behind me to do that, because we are a group of individuals, and individuals make mistakes, and sometimes individuals even have evil in their hearts. But that you support the 10,000 men and women that go out there every day and, you know, as was so aptly pointed out, do a really hard job, to a really high standard in a very difficult time. And what I would put forward to you is they do the job not only for you, but in your stead. You know, all of us want this to be a better city, but there's only a few of us that will show up at your house at 2 in the morning and make sure that that is a reality. And those are the men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department. And they deserve the accolades. Whatever accolades you give me is merely as my representation of them. And you know, you're a great body. You have a great police department, and I look forward to watching from afar with a little advice once in a while when asked, and watching the success continue. You know, and I think that this city should be very proud of itself. You know, and I know that we are a very self-critical city, and that's our nature. That's one of the reasons we're a good city. We're very self-critical. But once in a while, you got to pause and see how far we've come. And you know, it is amazing. It is amazing. Not to say we're there, but certainly we know how to get there, and that's the most important thing. So thank you all. Thank you very much. You know, these men and women behind me are the absolute best. I would, all of you know me personally, and all of you know how stubborn I am, and how dedicated I am to this city and this police department, and I would never have left had I not known that I was leaving the department and this city in great hands. So thank you all. Thank you for the recognition. It's very humbling.
Hey, can we make smaller resolutions? They should be smaller than a council president. Ladies and gentlemen, signed by all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, signed by all of us to the Chief of Police. One more round of applause. Mike Fuhrer, get in here. Let's go in the back. All right, Chief. Let's go in the back, guys. Okay, come on.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, Mr. Clerk, let's go ahead and move on to multiple card items. Mr. Previn? Eric Previn, are you ready?
Go for it, go for it, go.
Okay, Mr. Previn, you filled out cards for items number 1A, item 34, 35A, and items 35B, and general public comment.
Thank you, Council President Martinez. Say congratulations to Chief Beck on his retirement. Appreciate his service. You know, it's a very hard job, and under the category of data-driven, you know, he's fought hard against those various lawsuits. We've had retaliation, harassment, discrimination. We've spent $40 million trying to control that, which I very much appreciate, and I hope it's getting better because that is over a 10-year period, and it's just it's a very high number. But again, we do feel safer, so I appreciate that. Now, for the items regarding the track maps, today we got one that we had to kind of take a closer look. There's two where we're taking 2 lots and turning them into 10 divisions, subdivisions, 10-lot subdivisions, I guess is what you call it. So, you know, that results in more expensive units. The one in Ruse District is just below Wilshire, near a place called Wilton, I think. And, you know, these have been in the hopper for a long time. So this is the last stage, I believe, of these things. And it's good. It's good stuff. We're getting more nice, expensive places for our money. So there'll be more nice, expensive people. The parking is a little bit of an issue because each one comes with 2 covered spaces as usual. But for the guest parking, for 10 units, we've got a grand total of 2.5 because it's 0.25%. I don't know. I suppose that's a good deal. Indemnification-wise, the city is completely covered. And I want to direct your attention, Martinez, to the CEQA panel. If there's any problems, thanks to Mr. Fuhr, who was ushering out the chief a minute ago, we're going to get one of our panel firms to jump in, and we're going to team up with the developer against the community groups at the expense of the developer. That's what happened yesterday at item 30 with that guy Weintraub, who got the tax break on the Sportsman's Landing that we're encouraging the mayor not to sign at this time, because that is a big stinking red flag alert. I would say that item 34 looks very straightforward. Here you've got GSD rolling out some funds for various projects at the airport and I think also at the harbor. The one thing that caught my attention was when you've got construction materials and supplies of over $1 million, it feels like there should be a little disclosure. I mean, I realize that this is only a few $1 million over a period of time, but I do think it's probably worth stating that right up front. And that concludes my remarks on those 2 items. In terms of the Motorola item, which was just approved a moment ago, I just want to refer to it,
And that
sir.
item has already been voted on and not subject to public comment. So you should either go to item 1 or into your general public comment.
All right, well, item 1, you continued one of the items and the guy settled. But let's go to my general public comment, because I think, you know, competitive bidding is so important in California, and it's the law. And yet there's a company called Motorola that lobbies aggressively through, I guess it's England or Knabe & Allen, not sure. It might be another or several firms. But what happens is then they get preferred proprietary kind of deals, and there's no competitive bidding. And things like alarm systems, which I believe is this matter before us, go right to them. And how do we make it happen? They drop their price by $200,000, which to me is a red flag, because anybody who says that they're going to give you a $200,000 discount knows something that you don't know, unless they're giving away the money. But Motorola's not giving away the money out in Schaumburg, Illinois, believe me. They have a kind of a hammerlock on law enforcement companies around here. I've referred to the CEO of the county, Sachi Humai, who sits on the LA RICS board. Now, they have more or less prescribed that all the radios and such that are used be Motorola, because even the competitors who say we got a better system for less, that Blumenfield got a little excited about, that's what they say.
Thank you, Mr. Previn. Our next speaker is Mr. Herman, followed by Mr. Walsh, followed by Antonia Ramirez. Herman, you're speaking on general public comment, 1A.
Well, man, you're running the clock,
through
though.
6.
What a
item
beautiful
34,
presentation.
35A, and 34B. Go ahead.
What a beautiful presentation, you see, folks. But the result is NWA MOU on how the hearings of protest on the violations and annual inspections. You see, Herman Jason Wesson stepped out because he doesn't want to deal with the protest at 1814 South Fairfax Avenue, because Herman Jason Wesson is a terrorist. Herman Jason Wesson, for the record, is a terrorist. And why do I say that? Because 1,288, sit down, Negro.
No, Mr. Herman, if you're not going to stay on topic, I'm going to ask you to sit down.
So, $1,288.56. Now, item 2, fuck the lights. Item 3, fuck the lights. Item 4, fuck CD5. Item 5, CD12, hearing protest at Kinsey Street Light District. Fuck your lights, Englander, in accordance with section 695/6127. Fuck the Los Angeles Administrative Code and your proposition. Fuck you. In addition to item number 6, Mr. Bonin, you see, I'm a cocksucker, and I fight with my cock because I'm here to protest the Westchester Streetlight District in accordance with section 6.95, 6.127 of the Los Angeles Code, proposition 218. Now my general public comment. I can't believe...
1 minute. Hold on for just a second. Go ahead.
I can't believe that jackass, bald motherfucker threw me out of Plum, violated my civil rights by a threat. What did he say? That fat, bald fuck by Dawson? He said, you are banned. You cannot suppress the public in any meeting by banning people, you stupid asshole Weezar or Whoozar, you fucking immigrant. I'm an American citizen, and I will cope with every asshole the way I do, 42 U.S.C. 1983, under the Bain Act 52.1, don't fucking threaten the public. In addition to that, as I love you, Madam Chair, you see, drinking soda is bad for you. It's just a suggestion to help your health.
And
I'm here
we
to
seem
help
to be
help
outside the subject matter jurisdiction of the city.
Fuck Mike Fuhrer and fuck the LAPD, NWA, because I have issues. Fuck you.
Mr. Walsh? Mr. Walsh, you want to come up? Mr. Herman, if you're not quiet, I'm going to have you removed from the meeting. Sit down, Mr. Herman. You know what? Can you please remove Mr. Herman from our meeting? Thank you very much. Mr. Walsh, you are speaking on item 1A, items through 6, item 34, 35A, and 34B, and your general public comment. I want to make for the record that Mr. Herman continues to disrupt our meeting by shouting. You can't hear me because Mr. Herman continues to shout and interrupt our meeting. Goodbye, Mr. Herman.
And let's not start Mr. Walsh's time until Mr. Herman is gone so that we can hear Mr. Walsh. And Mr. Herman is shouting as he leaves, as usual. And he's still shouting.
Mr. Harris Dawson.
Much, Madam Chair. I would just note for the record that within the last 24 hours, the gentleman that was just removed verbally attacked a member's child during committee in this building, in this very room. And I would just implore the city attorney to study this issue more until you can find out a way that we have a reasonable way of comportment that's required in this room when we're addressing the public and we're addressing members.
Mr. City
Thank
Attorney,
you.
do you want to address that?
I'm not going to address it on the mic, but we are indeed looking into this and are considering our options.
Thank you, Mr. Harris Dawson. I apologize, Mr. Walsh. Let me repeat the items that you signed up to speak on. Item 1A, items 2 through 6, items 34, 35A, 35B, and your general public comment. Go ahead, sir.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. And let's point out that number 2, this is lighting district. You do a good job on lighting. I'm not one of these guys that say, oh, I'm an angry white man, and everything you do is wrong. We have plenty of those people, but I'm not one of those people. And number 44. Okay, I'll go into my 1 minute. The LA Times has been bought.
I'm sorry, 1 minute for general public comment. Go ahead, sir.
General public. It is no longer a white newspaper. It is a yellow newspaper. And the Japanese man who owns it is doing a fantastic job. He's getting his yellow ass out of this neighborhood. He's moving out of here, and they're going to turn it into a swap meet, the LA Times. And the story, the first day, he did a story about sexual harassment in the mayor's office. Let me tell you the way it works. There's somebody in the mayor's office that if you want a job, you got to suck his cock. Okay? Everybody knows it. Okay, let me hear Harris Dawson say I'm a liar. Notice he doesn't say I'm a liar when I'm telling the truth. Everybody knows whose cock has to be sucked. It's not the mayor's cock, but it's a cock that has to be sucked in order to keep the job. That's the way things run out this city. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Next speaker is Antonia Ramirez. Ms. Ramirez, you filled out a card for general public comment, item number 34, so you've got 2 minutes.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, why are we going to keep funding the work performed at the Department of General Services that we, at different or various airports and harbor projects, when they hire nothing but wetbacks and gangbangers, we're paying all these illegal workers, wetbacks and gangbangers, and there are no military veterans hired in these establishments. Again, we're talking about the various airports, harbor projects, and again, we're hiring wetbacks and gangbangers, and we're paying them salaries that not military veterans are making. This is absolute ludicrous. What we should be doing is pay ICE to come in and deport all the motherfuckers. Get rid of these gangbangers and wetbacks because you don't even know if they're going to tamper with your food. So I say get rid of these goddamn
And we seem
wetbacks.
to have veered off of topic.
That's not on item 34. Item 34, ma'am.
Send them off back to where they came from. And my minute.
Okay, now you got general public comment. Go ahead.
The city is a mirror image of the heinous fraud, corruption, lawlessness, and wicked liberals of this council members and city attorney ass slicker Mike Feuer, who's in bed with all the cartels and all the gangbangers. Let's not play stupid. Look at the city out there. It's a cesspool. And guess who took the fall? Charlie Beck took the fall for fucking faggot Eric Garcetti and the council members and city attorney ass slicker Michael Feuer. So Charlie Beck, I'm sorry. You were pinned, and I'm sorry, because the truth of the matter is most people who commit crimes are blacks and browns. I live on the fucking street, and I deal with these fuckers, gangbangers, pedophiles, these assholes every fucking day and night. Who helps us? Nobody, because they're all in bed. And your black leaders, they're fucking fattened because they're making deals with all the cartels. They don't give a shit about your
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez.
So I'm sorry.
Ms. Ramirez, your time is up. Thank you, ma'am. That concludes speakers on multiple cards. So we're going ahead and vote on a couple of items. Let's take up item number 1A.
And Madam President, again, the recommendation from the Department for 1A is to receive and file in as much as the lien was partially rescinded and the balance paid.
Okay, let's go ahead and open the row. Close the row and tabulate the votes.
13 ayes.
Okay, let's vote on items 2 through 6. Let's open the row. Close the row. Tabulate the votes.
13 ayes.
Let's go ahead and vote on items 34 and 35. Let's open the row. Close the row and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
There's been a request to send item 20 forthwith. Without objection, that will be the order. Let's go back to general public comment. Linda Cesar, are you here? Linda? Linda Cesar? Diana Igawa? Diana Iguawa? Jose Jurado? You want to come forward? Deborah Hyman, are you here? Deborah Hyman, followed by Jacqueline Richardson. Good morning. You have 1 minute for general public comment.
Yes. I'm here to talk about like the community services for the Skid Row community because I'm trying to bring attention and promote community services for vocational aptitude assessments and community screening for the homeless services providers. I feel that a community assessment for vocational aptitude would bring more recreational education into the area. And the issue with the homeless issue is that people there are not functioning in a means that is going to promote their welfare. And some people there are really interested in getting out of the situation, like myself. I don't want to be reliant of these homeless shelters that I'm staying at. And another thing is, things like music are an inspiration to people, an inspiration to, and it indefinitely educates and inspires aptitude from people. And some of the music that they have is not very good music. And I feel thrash metal is very healthy music for the.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Deborah Hyman, followed by Mrs. Richardson. Good morning, ma'am. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Deborah Hyman. I am a vendor at Leimert Park as well as Echo Park. I'm here today because I know that you're working on a legal permit system for park vending, similar to sidewalk vending. In Leimert Park, vendors are an important part of the cultural and artistic essence of a historical black neighborhood. As my community is changing because of new developments in Metro, we are also being displaced at the park. Black families are being displaced from their homes, and black entrepreneurs are being forced to leave the park and face penalties. If you don't give us official legal permit number, parks will lose a big component of what makes it special. I ask for a permit system that is affordable with objective regulations based on health and safety. I also ask for immediate removal of criminal charges from park vending. Giving us criminal charges could ruin our lives and get some vendors deported. Los Angeles must do everything it can to protect our community and undocumented members. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Richardson?
Channel 5 reported the day after the election for governor that over 100,000 voters, registered voters, eligible voters, had been deleted from the registrar list when they went to vote, so they had to do provisional balloting. The Wednesday of Channel 5 reported that those 100,000 names were missing from the ballot, and as of 10 o'clock that morning, Wednesday morning, they still haven't been counted. One minor publication reported As of Friday, the week of the balloting, those ballots still haven't been counted, including the ballots for mail-in ballots. Those mail-in ballots, over 100,000 of those. Together, they added up to 300,000 ballots that had not been counted. That could have been put somebody over who came in third or whatever. I wonder who can get that rectified.
Thank you, Mrs. Richardson. That concludes speakers for general public comment. Mr. Clerk, what's before us?
Madam President, Council has motions for posting and referral.
Posted and referred. Members, are there any announcements? Seeing none, can we please rise for adjourning motions? Are there any adjourning motions to my left? Mr. Cedillo? Seeing none, any adjourning motions to my right? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned.
About 99% of our clients are longshoremen, then the other 1% is everybody else. Isaac opened back in the late 70s. The business was began by my mother and my father over 40 years ago now. My father, he worked on the docks, he worked at the canneries, so did my mother. My father used to take food from the house first, and that's how it began. My mother's tacos, her burritos got more popular than anything else. All the recipes are because of my mother. She was the one that knew how to cook. That's why my father fell over her, because my mother knew how to cook. She taught us well how to do